Well, I know it would be super nice if we could just clean and organize the space once and then it would stay that way, but we all know that that's not how it goes, especially with kids. Today I wanted to share with you a little bit more of how we're helping our kids be able to manage their own stuff and take care of it, and at the end of the day, how I still reserve the right to throw stuff away if they're not taking care of it, but how I do it without breaking their trust. So we'll talk about that coming up next. Well, hi, I'm Dawn from The Minimal Mom. If we haven't met before, I am married to Tom and we have 4 kids ages 4 through 9, which means, yes, we have all kinds of stuff coming into our house on a daily basis. Even when we try to keep stuff from not coming in, it just happens and it's not going away, and it's something that our kids are gonna have to deal with as they get older as well. So one of my biggest hopes is to be able to teach them how to manage their stuff now, so that then when they leave our house, that they feel like they have a good grip on it and that they'll have these skills that they can carry into adulthood. So that's the goal, but of course it doesn't always mean that it's easy. And so I shared with you this last week that this is what our daughter's desk had started to look like. And it's funny because like my desk is right there, and so Tom will be like, how can you like look at that every single day and walk by it and leave that desk like that? And this is where I say we are all wired differently, because that doesn't actually bother me that much. And I know that part of it was my problem, because at the end of every night, they're supposed to clean up their desk, and I just hadn't been doing a good job of making sure that they were doing it. So I knew that some of the responsibility was mine, but still it got to a point we were having company over, and so we said, today is the day you guys need to get your desk under control. So I want to share with you the kind of the process that we went through with that, because these types of messes can be overwhelming for our kids. And I don't think, similar to when we did their bedroom over Christmas break, I don't think it's fair always just to be like, you need to go take care of that, and for us not to offer help. So let's talk about how we approach this process. Basically, our kids are wired differently. We have one who very easily gets rid of stuff. It's not a big deal for her to go through her desk and throw stuff away. We have another who wants to keep everything. So I'm guessing your kids fall into one of those categories as well. And so basically what I told them was that they could clean their desk as much as little as they want. So if they wanted to spend a lot of time cleaning it and going through their stuff, that's fine. If they didn't, that's okay. Everything needed to fit in their cubbies above. So that's their space where they can keep their personal items. And so I said, basically anything that remains on the desktop becomes mine after you're done, that I get to decide what to do with. Anything that's in the cubbies is safe. And so I said, you can stop cleaning whenever you want, but just know that anything that you want to save and keep needs to be in one of the cubbies. And then I also rewarded them, because we were having family coming over, and I said, then when you're done, we'll make cupcakes too. And so it really wasn't a big deal, and they were completely on board. And so they got to work, and honestly, to do all of this, it probably took about 20 minutes. And then our older daughter even ended up helping our younger daughter, because she was really excited about making cupcakes. And so she was just like, just throw it away, just chuck it, you know, like it doesn't matter, just throw it away. And so I thought that was pretty funny too. But here's the balance that I'm always trying to strike with my kids. I don't want them to just feel like, oh, I can just throw everything away because it doesn't matter and I'll just get a new one. So that's one end of the spectrum. To the other end of the spectrum, where they don't want to get rid of anything because everything is precious and they feel like they need to keep everything forever. And so I'm trying to help my kids find that balance where we keep the things that do add value to our life, that we use on a regular basis and that we find enjoyment from, and then we feel free to get rid of stuff that doesn't fit into that, you know? And so our daughter, I mean, I've shared this before, but she creates like 12 art projects a day. And so something her and I have really talked about is recognizing that the joy is really in the process of creating, and then also sometimes being able to give it away. And then once in a while we keep special pieces, you know, to display, but we could never keep all of the stuff that she creates. And so we just talk about it, and she's totally okay with it. I mean, she's just chucking stuff in the garbage bin that she spent time on creating. But we also talk about that it's really good practice, that she's practicing her art skills so that she's going to be an even better artist as she gets older. We don't need to keep every piece that she makes to archive that or show that. We have some select pieces in their art bins, but beyond that, we don't have to keep every piece. And I do have a separate video talking about kind of our philosophy behind art projects and how we decide what to keep and where and all of that. So you can check that video out as well. So basically then when they were done with their desk, I got to go back through, and anything that just wasn't organized or still left on the desk, then I could throw it away. So I'll show you a few things that were left over. So there's just like some random art projects, a walnut, right? Some slime that they made at a birthday party that's been sitting in their desk for over a month now that hasn't gotten played with, a box to something. So, you know, really random things. But I feel comfortable throwing this stuff away now because I warned them. I told them, you know, if you aren't gonna find a spot for it in your places that you save stuff, then, you know, you can trust that I'm gonna throw it away. And so they know that these spaces are theirs and they can keep anything in there. Look at what my oldest daughters looked like before.
It's never been cleaned out in like months.
She's like, I don't even know what was in there.
I didn't even know what was in there, and I don't like need any of it.
And so now I'll show you what it looks like now. I mean, it's still a little, it could use a little more tidying maybe, but it looks pretty good. And similarly, you know, parents a lot of times will ask like, what do I do with all the little things that come in like from birthday parties when they get the treat bags at the end of the birthday party, or like Happy Meal toys, or just kind of all these little things that don't have a lot of value. You know, they're probably not gonna have a long-term place in your house. And so basically what I tell the kids is that if I find it on the floor or on the couch or somewhere it's not supposed to be, I ask them one time to pick it up. I say, oh, that ended up on the floor, can you pick that up and put it away? So they can put it in a toy bin, they can put it in one of their safe spots. As long as it's not in my way, they can put it where they want to put it. But what happens a lot of times, they've lost value for it and they don't do anything with it. So at that point, then it's mine to keep and I can decide if I'm just gonna throw it away. You know, our kids live in such a different world than what we grew up in. Stuff comes and goes from their lives so easily. And they even witness us with that, you know, like I forgot my phone charger at a hotel, and so what did I do? I went on Amazon and I had one the next day. And so they're witnessing this. And again, I don't want them to be on the end of this spectrum where they don't value anything and therefore they don't take care of it. But I also recognize that they're living in a world where things are just very easily replaced. But yes, I do throw their stuff away, but I give a warning first. And here's the other thing. The concern is always that I don't want to break trust with my kids. And so I think that's very important. I want my kids to trust me because I want to be one of the biggest influences in their life. And if they trust me, I feel that then I will be very influential in their life. So it is very important to me. But I also want to encourage you that throwing their stuff away isn't the only way that we gain trust with our kids. Every time we say to them, oh, if you don't get your teeth brushed and your backpack packed before it's time to go, you're not going over to Nana's after school today. If we don't follow through with that, then they don't know that they can trust the things that we say. Or if we say we're gonna do something at a certain time, or they ask us to do something for them and we don't do them. So following through with what it is that we say we're gonna do is a huge way that we break trust with our kids. Or just edifying them and encouraging them, or helping them. You know, like I said, this desk was kind of a lot to tackle. So I said, if you come across any things that you need help with, just let me know. And so our oldest daughter, she'd bring things up to me and we'd kind of talk it through if it was something worth keeping or not. So being available to our kids, actually looking at them and talking to them and asking them about their day and really listening to their responses and asking them more questions. That's a huge way that we build trust with our kids. So I don't want you to worry that just because, yeah, we might throw some of their stuff away because we can't keep everything. If we're doing these other things to build trust with our kids, I have so much equity with them that I'm really not worried about this. And like I said, I usually do it with a warning too. Now let's say we were, you know, once in a while I get cleaning, I throw stuff away. It happens. Once in a while I throw something away that was very special to them. And then if that is the case, they remember something that I thought they had long forgotten, then I just ask them, how can I make it up to you? And you know, usually it's something pretty small, but just the fact that I valued their feelings, I asked them how I could make it up to them, then it seems to make everything better again, and it hasn't done any damage to our relationship. And so of course, finally, every time we talk about steps, inevitably someone asks, but what if my child will not part with anything? And so I think a lot of times this actually has more to do with a power struggle than the actual item that you're asking the child to part with. And so a lot of times it's just letting the child feel that they do have some control in the situation, whether you're saying, okay, that's fine if you don't, you know, we don't have to get rid of it, but we're gonna put it in a box and we're gonna put it in storage for a little bit just to see if it's actually things that we do miss. Or, okay, well that's fine, how about you put a bunch of stuff in a box and then I'll pay you $5 for that box. Or, you know, these different tactics that we've talked about before. I know it can be difficult at times, but I do think it's so worthwhile to figure out what works for your child, because this is something that we have to keep doing over and over again. And like I said, now that we've kind of put these parameters in place with our kids, like, you know, they can keep their special stuff in those bins. We talked about the DVD cases in the last video, or having their hangers so they know exactly how many pieces of clothing they can keep. They love it. They just love having these guidelines, and there's no guessing. It's consistent, and just know when I say, okay, you have to clean up your desk now, if there's stuff left on the desk, then it's fair game for me, and they're okay with that because they make sure they have all their precious stuff tucked away where they know it's safe. And so I hope this helps a little. Like I said, it'd be really nice if we could just do this once and then it's all done. But the good news is that, I mean, really, I didn't have to help the girls that much. They're 7 and 9. I didn't really have to help, and their desk was a disaster, right? And so because we have gone through this process a handful of times, they're able to do about 95% of it on their own now. So I definitely see now how this consistency has been paying off, and I'm so excited to see now as they get older and how they really can manage this on their own, and I'm not gonna have to every day be reminding them to clean up their desk. I hope this helps. I certainly would love to know any questions that you have or any tips that you have for how you handle this with your kids. And if you haven't already, it would be really fun if you subscribe. Coming up, we're gonna be doing more stuff with the community section here, and if you're not a subscriber, you don't actually see that stuff. So it'd be fun to be able to interact with you with that. So I'd love for you to subscribe, and you can also find us on Instagram as well. A little bit dramatic, but okay.